how do industry leaders create SBOMs? So can you share some examples of what maybe I'll call mature SBOM adopters and what they're doing?
Sure. Tomas, I'll take this one, or I'll start with this one. So some of the best examples I've seen are from those that have done a great job, anyways, with being both complete and accurate. Some examples at the other end might be well formatted SBOMs with very little content, or at least very little accurate content. I already spoke about the concept of a catalog, so I won't rehash that. But there is the concept of data or metadata, like Tomas and I have both spoken about already, that's associated with your software that you may feel doesn't need to be reported until it does. So why not begin this journey, your SBOM journey, by being prepared for what may potentially come as a future requirement? So I'd encourage you to not limit your solution to the requirements facing you today. Licensing data, for example, may not apply to you today, but it could in the future on an SBOM. So allow for provisions in your process today so that you're prepared for tomorrow, even if it isn't a requirement today. So it likely could be in the near future. We're seeing several organizations receiving this requirement. Some organizations have procured a tool. They've set up the basic configuration, they've plugged it into their dev processes and crossed their fingers. So how much do you trust that source of data? Some tools have better results than others. Some tools are used for purposes they weren't designed for. For example, trying to complete a source SBOM when your tool only scans binaries. So how do you know that your tool caught everything, or that it potentially incorrectly identified software that you're not using? So it's important in this aspect to select a tool that fits your purpose. Um, another industry leading practice is to future proof your SBOM by doing more than the minimum so that you can scale. Some organizations structure their SBOM operations to meet the current requirements, as I said previously, and then they don't consider the impact of the potential future requirements, like the licensing aspect. So application or package level scanning may be acceptable today until a source SBOM is required. Again, the concept of a catalog resolves a lot of this, but it's not an easy lift. It's a big lift. So it's okay to start small, but it's more important to start somewhere, even if that means only producing a package level SBOM until you can get to a more comprehensive process in place. But what you don't know can harm you.
That's such a great and important call out, Russ. I had to kind of write it down to make sure to double click on that. Is this concept of doing more than that is mandated or what is required. So what I'm hearing is that the professionals at SBOMs are proactive as opposed to reactive. See what I did there? But if you think about it, the NTIA minimum requirements, which is what you see everybody asking about, like, will this SBOM help me meet the NTIA's minimum requirements? These are a starting point. And for some organizations, as you said, it's great to start with those requirements, but you should really be thinking about how you can do more than the minimum. How can you plan for questions that you're going to be asked in the future? How can you figure out what are the sources of information, of accurate information you need to provide in order to answer them? This is how the pros think about it. And an extra note on this point of accuracy. You mentioned it again, but I want to double click on this point. Consider what we discussed around the different answers that an SBOM can provide. It's not just about the data in the SBOM. It's about the decision making that comes downstream after ingesting that SBOM. What processes can you inform based on those decisions? Like, really, the action that the SBOM inspires is only as good as the data it contains and the accuracy of that data. And with that, there are risks in data inaccuracy. If you have the wrong name of a component or the wrong version or a wrong unique identifier, such as the Perl or a CPE, you might end up with false positives. You might end up with false negatives. And you alluded to this. How do you know that your tool caught everything, or if it correctly identified software that is or isn't in your code base? So all in all, to say, like, this focus on accuracy is paramount so that you don't lead yourself or anybody that relies on your SBOM for any of the use cases that we've discussed toward a false sense of security. So one of the things we encourage, as Russ mentioned, if you plugged in a tool and you operationalized it, you integrated into your SDLC, and it's now producing reports, audit your SBOM. Like, verify what is in your SBOM versus what's in your package manifest, for example, as a starting point, and make sure that the information in your SBOM matches what you know to be there. And if it doesn't, then it might be a gap in the tooling or something more suspicious going on, where a package that you shipped is not what matches your manifest. But also thinking of the process. Again, there's many different tools that can produce SBOMs in many different formats that are all conformant to these minimum requirements, and see how you can, with the end question that you want to answer in mind, how can you structure those SBOMs, make sure they contain the information that they require, being proactive, again, thinking of the questions you might be asked in the future, so that you're not just producing a software bill of materials. This is a Rust coined term here, but instead a product bill of materials or a device bill of materials, depending on what it is that you're shipping or what it is people are getting from you. So Russ, I hope I did some justice adding on to what you initially mentioned around how the
Definitely.
pros do it.
Your trusted partner